everybody, and welcome to the channel Out of Ammo, Out of Time. I'm your host, Krabby Terror 8, and here we are in part 17 of the Investigator Games. And I welcome you all to this as we start the Forgotten Age Investigators and see how they go in the Investigator Games in the Gathering in the Night of the Zealot campaign. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Investigator Games, it's a bit like the Hunger Games. So we pitch each investigator into the gathering, see how they go, and based on how they perform, we tot up their victory points and convert those into their experience points. And then they go into a league table from the most successful investigator down to the least successful investigator. There's quite a number on the league table now, and yeah, we get to see how they perform, and the winner, of course, is crowned in riches and glory, and the loser gets to try another day in another scenario. I think so far we have a couple of 7 experience pointers at the top of the table who've managed to not only kill the Ghoul Priest and also investigate the attic and the cellar, but they've also managed to defeat one of the ghouls that gives you a victory point. No one's defeated both ghouls, that's never happened, but that's not to say it won't in the future. If you don't defeat one of the extra ghouls, then you really have to try and complete this in less than 8 turns, I think it is, to get top of the table. If you do defeat one of them, I think you've got to do it in quicker than 11 turns, so a little bit slower, but still it's quite a challenge as these new investigators from the Forgotten Age step up to the plate. As you might have already noticed, I'm assuming spoilers that you know how to play Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm also assuming you know the Gathering. If either of those don't apply to you, then I would strongly recommend that you go and check out some how to play videos or other sorts of introductory videos first, play the Gathering, and then maybe come back. So I wouldn't recommend this for first timers at all. And just on that, I would also highly recommend the Vase Odin's videos, his background on different investigators. Twisted Tentacle Inn is the name of the YouTube channel. He does a background on each of them, and I watched Leo's Anderson's before starting this, and it was very interesting and enlightening, so I would very much encourage you to do that. I'll leave a link to that in the video when I post it up as well. So yes, here we are with Leo Anderson, the guardian, sort of guardian slash rogue from the Forgotten Age. He's a veteran wayfarer, and we'll talk about his stats in a second, but before we do, I had the opportunity to speak to Leo in the green room before we started the Investigator Games. He's just waiting now in the study for everything to begin. Crowds still filing in and taking their seats, buying their popcorn, all that kind of thing. Yes, I have a I have a nickname for Leo. I called him Mr. Chuckles because let's just say he's not the cheeriest bloke around. He's very serious. In fact, you know when you imagine some middle-aged dude sitting at a bar looking like a sad sack nursing a drink. That's kind of how Leo Anderson comes across, and certainly how he smells as well. So yeah, he's not the most pleasant person. I mean, I have interviewed various investigators so far, and he's one of the least pleasant. I asked him about how he thinks he'll go in the Investigator Games, and he just said in a sort of low monotone, "I never win, son." So yeah, that was not exactly enlightening. I did ask him about what his strategies were going to be, about how he was going to play this, how he felt about his chances, And look, he he leaned forward. He looked me straight in the eye with his green bloodshot eyes. They locked onto mine. And he spoke in this sort of whiskey sour kind of voice. And his breath likewise nearly made my nostril hairs curl. And he just said something about, it's tough out there, but I'll do what it takes, son. And I think he's basically saying he'll do what it takes, even if it means blowing everybody up, including himself, to take out the Ghoul Priest. So let's just say Leo Anderson is sort of if he has a strategy, it's kind of that scorched earth. He's not afraid to throw his own allies under the bus if it means getting a good outcome, whatever it takes to defeat the Ghoul Priest. And indeed, when I spoke to the Ghoul Priest, he thinks Leo Anderson's a bit of a psycho, and coming from the Ghoul Priest, that's saying a lot. So, and Leader Chandler also thinks he's a bit unhinged, and again, from Leader Chandler, that's saying a lot. So that's Leo Anderson for you. So we will see how he goes in the Investigator Games. Oh, I meant to say, Akachi, you might recall if you saw last week's video, she fell on the ground and sort of screamed and then wouldn't say what it was. I actually caught up with her after the Investigator Games and asked her if her screaming was something to do with how she did in the Investigator Games, and she was really clear that her vision was nothing to do with that. But all she would say is, you will know it when you see it. So she has clearly seen something, but she won't tell me what it is. So we shall see. Anyway, so enough about all of that. Let's talk about Leo Anderson and his deck. So first and foremost is, yes, he is a Guardian, and he's really all about allies, and we'll talk about that in a second. He's really weak on agility. He's not the world's most agile person. Let's just say he's about as agile as a tank. And I think that's kind of how you're supposed to play Leo. You use your allies and various other things to soak up damage, because he's not one for avoiding. He's got very good fight and willpower, however, and reasonable intellect. So pretty strong. He's just not going to be avoiding anything. And to be honest, in the gathering, sort of avoiding things is not really a big problem. It's really only to do with some of the cards you can draw in the encounter deck, things like Grasping Hands, where you might need to make that kind of agility roll, where it can be a bit dire. I think it's Grasping Hands, because I think Rotting Remains is willpower. I think I'm getting that right. But anyway, it's those sorts of things. So I'm not too worried about his low agility, because it's really compensated for a strong set of stats otherwise. And he is very allied focused. So after your turn begins, you can play an ally asset, and it costs one less. So ally assets cost less money, which is good. And if you get your Elder Sign, you can actually search for allies as well. So Leo Anderson decks are going to be ally heavy and ally focused. So in that way. So if we have a look at something else just quickly, you're probably wondering why he's only got 3 resources on him and there's this card sitting out. That's because the random weakness he drew was indebted, which means he starts the game with 2 fewer resources, and it's a permanent that just sits there, which, it's not the end of the world, but actually it is a bit of a pain because it means he's got less assets, so it's harder to play the Leo DeLucas of this world. And yes, it costs him 1 less to bring an ally onto the table. However, it's still a bit of a pain at the beginning to get things out on the table, but we'll deal with it. So if we have a look at his deck, and as I've said before, these are the starter decks from the Fantasy Flight list that we start with. Some of them are more ideal than others. This one's not too bad, actually. It's as you would expect. It's got the Rogue and Guardian mix, but it's heavy on allies, heavier than you would normally expect, which is a good thing. So we have here, of course, Leo DeLuca, who is always brilliant to have in any deck. We also have the beat cop, and we also have the guard dog somewhere here. I always have difficulty finding them in here. Where's the guard dog? There definitely should be a guard dog in here. Ah, there he is. The guard dog. So there's the guard dog in there as well, and indeed the venturer. So the venturer as well is from the Forgotten Age set, and allows you to spend a supply, exhaust, and place one supply or ammo on an asset controlled by an investigator. So lots of ally cards. There's also this ally card, Trusted, which allows you fast play it onto an ally asset, +1 health, +1 sanity. So lots of opportunities to keep allies humming along, even if they're taking damage, which is the whole idea. We have Mitch Brown, who allows you 2 additional ally slots, which is fantastic. And that's as long as they're non-unique allies, you can put them in. And I think all of our allies are non-unique. So the Venture is not unique. Guard Dog isn't. Beat Cop isn't. Leo DeLuca isn't. Not that we have multiple Leo DeLucas in here anyway. But it means if we can get Mitch Brown on the table and we can bring out a bunch of allies, then we're going to be in a great position to do all kinds of things and take down the Ghoul Priest really quite easily, because, you know, we'll have this sort of army of allies to work with us. Yeah. There's also other cards like the Decorated Skull, which normally is not a massively great card, I don't think. You know, it allows you to draw a resource, but you can use it then to draw cards and resources, and so of course it synergizes nicely in this deck. On top of that, we've got nice cards like the Machete. We've got cards like the Derringer. And we've got cards like the 45 automatic and indeed the survival knife from the Forgotten Age. Survival knife is really quite nice, because not only do you get to fight with it, but if you're in a situation where an enemy attack deals damage to you, you then get to fight again. So that can be quite nice with, say, a retaliate kind of enemy like the Ghoul Priest, that if you do get attacked, you can actually fight back and do more damage. So that's quite a nice card to have as well. So interesting deck from that perspective. Our weakness card, we already saw we had one. This weakness card, it's not that terrible, the weakness card. You must either discard an ally asset you control from play, or discard each ally asset or from your hand. So you get the choice to do that. If there aren't any assets discarded, then you just shuffle it back into your deck. So because we've got lots of allies, if we lost an ally that way, well, it's not the end of the world. There's probably more of them to come. So, and particularly if we don't have Mitch on the table, and this opening deck doesn't have charisma, we're kind of limited on how many allies we can get down on the table anyway. If Mitch turns up early, then it's great, we can have lots of allies, but otherwise, if he doesn't sort of turn up, we're sort of more restricted in what we can do from an ally perspective. So I think in terms of doing this and taking on the Ghoul Priest, I think it's a pretty good balanced deck. I think we've got things like Flashlight, we've got reasonable intelligence to gather the clues, and on top of that, we've got plenty of weaponry, and we've got allies. So I'm a bit more upbeat than Leo is about us doing reasonably okay in the gathering. Whether he'll be fast enough to get through it in time is another question, but I think in terms of actually taking out enemies and things, I think we'll be fine, as long as we can establish ourselves reasonably early on in terms of getting a few allies onto the table, and hopefully more than one ally onto the table. So there we go. There's the deck. And I suppose before I finish, I should mention there's a couple of good rogue cards. Opportunist, Elusive, always a good card to have in the deck, in particular, and of course Leo DeLuca. So a couple of good rogue cards splashed in there as well. Okie dokie. So let's. I think that's all. Let's close and shuffle up this deck, like so. And here we are, ready for the gathering. We're on our turn. In turn 1, excuse me, and I think we're ready to roll. Everything's set up. We've put all the cards out, even though technically the other cards don't exist at the moment. It's easier than me pulling them all out later. So I think we'll just make sure that the encounter deck is shuffled up as well. It's shuffled up, so yeah, let's read it out and then we can draw our hand. So what's going on? It's late at night, and you're holed up in your study, sadly researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, and a bottle of scotch later, you hear the sound of strange chanting coming from your parlour down the hall. Have I had too much scotch? I don't know. At the same time, you hear dirt churning, as if someone were digging beneath the floor. And trapped. As you leap to investigate, well, we've got a 1 agility. So as you slowly rise to investigate, the door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind only the solid wall. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. Okay, there we go. Here we are with our 3 actions. We've got our 3 resources. And yeah, we're all ready to go. So the first thing we just need to do is just draw our hand of 5 cards. This is always my favorite bit. What are we going to get? What are we going to get? What are we going to get? What do I want? Well, if we can get Leo DeLuca in the first draw, that would be fantastic because, you know, an extra turn is just gold. Getting Mitch Brown would also be a real plus because that means we can put out multiple allies at the same time. And a weapon, so it would be fantastic to get a weapon. Machete would be ideal because it's versatile. So that would be the ideal thing to get. So if we can get an ally, we can get Machete. Probably, actually, emergency cash would be good because we're a bit low on cash. So that would also be handy. And then, apart from that, you know, whatever comes up. But I think, you know, if we can grab an ally and a weapon and emergency cash, at least in the first 5, I think we'll be doing okay. So let's see what we get. First up, we get the 45 automatic. Okay, that good card to get. I mean, the only problem is it's only got 4 ammo, so it's probably useful for later in the game when we need to take out the Ghoul Priest. Evidence, yep, that can be a helpful card when you're defeating an enemy. The problem is that, you know, are the enemies going to be there? Are they not? I mean, it'd be great if you're in the cellar, you get the rats, you can quickly dispatch them in that way. Also, a double intellect pip can be good if you want to get Leader Chandler on board, if you really needed Leader Chandler. Third one is the decorated skull. Yeah. Could be helpful, maybe. Yep. Fourth is physical training, which is useful if you've got plenty of assets, resources, but we don't. So this is a pretty useless card. And finally, overpower. Yeah, overpower can be helpful as well for fighting, but we're already pretty good on fighting. So I have to say, I'm not overly enamored with any of these. I mean, we could keep the 45 automatic, but do we keep it or do it? But I'm actually thinking I might throw all of these in. Don't usually do that, but I just feel like for the opening hand, we can do better. So let's draw another 5. So 1, there we go, Mitch Brown. Fantastic. Number 2, survival knife. That's good. Number 3, yes, vicious blow. This is definitely something to keep for when the Ghoul Priest turns up. Number 4, Venturer. Fantastic. So we're already seeing we can use Mitch Brown and get the Venturer out, which, yep. And then number 5 is the flashlight, which will be fantastic for the cellar. So that feels like a better draw. We've got our allies that we can start to bring onto the table. We've got some way of fighting in the early part of the gathering. we've got something for the later part of the gathering, and we've also got the flashlights. So that's a much better draw than these. So let's put these back into the deck. Shuffle up the deck like that, and we're ready to roll. So here we are. So the first thing we're going to do, because our turn has begun, we're going to use this free action that we get to play an asset, reducing its cost by 1. So we're going to bring out Mitch Brown straight away, which costs us 2. There we go. Fantastic. So we have Mitch Brown on the table. Now we have 2 additional alliage slots that we can use, which is brilliant. However, the Wayfarer is way too expensive for us at the moment, but that's all right. We've got Mitch Brown on the table. It was a free action when our turn began, so very nice way to start things. So yeah, so we've got Mitch Brown onto the table, and now we can take our 3 actions. So I think actually I don't want to, first of all, there's a couple of things. What I don't want to happen is get a crypt chill and lose Mitch Brown. That would be unfortunate. So, and also I don't want to start having all kinds of you know, ghoul minions hitting the table and have no weapons to fight them with. So what I'm going to do, just adjust this a little bit here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an action to get another resource. And then I'm going to spend those 2 resources. If I can let me spend them. And I'm going to bring out the survival knife. So we've got the survival knife in play. That's one of our hand slots taken up. And, you know, if I lost the survival knife, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I really don't want to lose Mitch Brown. We don't need the flashlight at the moment. We need to save that for the cellar. But now I feel like we're set up a little bit more. But this indebted has really kind of put a little bit of a spanner in the works. But anyway, so that was our, so we've now got 1 action left. So let's go ahead and investigate the study. So we're at 2 versus a 3, so we're looking at a -1 or better. Chaos Bag says auto fail. Leo swings around hulkingly looking for clues. They are nowhere to be seen, no chance at all. So there we go. So that was the end of the first round. Not exactly the most lightning fast first round in the history of the Investigator Games, but we got some important things onto the table. So we used our special action at the beginning of our turn to play an ally asset for 2. That left us with a resource of 1. So then we used our first turn to bump that up to 2 resources. We then brought out the trusty survival knife, and then for our third turn we sought to investigate in the study, and we got a massive auto fail. So no chance. But there we go. Can't have it always, but that's a reasonable start to the Investigator Games. Crag goes wild. Leo shambles around, still looking for the clues, ignoring the cries from the crowd. He's really kicking over tables and chairs, trying to find these clues that he's supposed to find, and not having much luck at the moment. Mitch is just standing there looking at him, shaking his head. So there we go. That's the first inaugural round of the investigation phase. Let's move into the good old enemy phase, or enema phase, as I like to call it. And of course, at this stage, there are no enemas to speak of or enemies to speak of. So we can move directly into the upkeep phase, and we get another trusty survival knife. Well, that's good. So we get, if we lose our survival knife through crypt chill, we've got another one here, and if we manage to keep it, well, the fight pip's always handy. So there we go. There we go. We've got a resource. It's going to be a while before we can get the venturer onto the table, unless we take more time or we get the good old emergency cache. So let's see how we go. But at the moment, it's probably clue gathering that we need to do the most. Okay, so that's our upkeep phase. So now we're moving into the first inaugural mythos phase, the phase that everybody loves, that everybody lives for. What would we do without the mythos phase? So there we go. We've got a doom on what's going on. Let's see what the mythos phase has for us from the encounter deck. And the encounter deck gives us, rotting remains, which is a revelation. So this is a little bit better than grasping hands, because grasping hands we're going to almost certainly fail. But rotting remains is okay. We have to test 3, and for each one you fail by, take a horror, and we are at a 4, so it's a 3 versus a 4. We've got nothing to pitch into this, so it's a -1 or better. Here we go. Chaos Bag says -1, so we were perfectly fine. 3 versus 4. Yep, no worries. Okay, easy. Easy. Let's just say Leo is not even slightly, as he's stumbling around the study, he kicks over a chair, and there's some rotting remains. He just shrugs his shoulders and keeps blundering through. Who cares about a few rotting remains? Grasping hands, on the other hand, really give him the willies. So see how we go. All right, so that's the end of the mythos phase. Not too bad. So we move into the investigation phase. So let's put 3 actions on Leo. And yep, here we are. So we've only got 1 resource, so we can't really, we could spend time bringing up more resources and bringing out the Venturer. Is it the Venturer? I keep trying to call it the Wayfarer. It's the Venturer. But I really don't think that's the focus at the moment, because remember, the Investigator Games is about speed as much as anything. And we've already kind of wasted a turn in the study. You know, some of the investigators in these games are already out of studying in the hallway by now. So we can't use our special ability, because that would take 3, and we're at 4, so that's going to have to wait. So I think the main focus here is to spend our 3 goes seeing whether we can get out of this study. There's no ghouls at this location, so skulls are 0s, so I think we've got a pretty good chance. So we need a -1 or better. We're at 3. It's a 2. So let's see how we go. So the first action, Chaos Bag says, I don't believe this, another auto fail. Leo is really stumbling around this study. Maybe he needs a lamp or something, or indeed a flashlight. So that was a fail. Okay, let's try again. Craig goes, oh. Okay, Leo tries again, and we get a -4. He really is struggling to get these clues. And third try, -2. No. So that was 3 fails at the study. Oh, Leo, what are you doing? Ah. Crowd is just like, great big groan from the crowd. I tell you, if this keeps up, we're going to have to bring out the flashlight just to get out of the study. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh, well, that's the way it goes. I don't think Leo is going to be getting through this in 8 turns somehow. So who knows? Maybe we should be holding out to kill as many of the ghouls as we can. So that was the end of our second investigation phase, which went spectacularly badly. We just failed. We got a -4, we got an auto fail, and a -2, and all we needed was a -1. And there are plenty of chaos tokens which would allow that. So that was very unfortunate. However, that's the way it goes in the Investigator Games. We move into the enema phase. There are no enemies to speak of, so we move into the upkeep phase, and we get Trusted. Nice card to get. Gives you your ally, one of your allies, +1 health, +1 sanity, which is great. I don't think we need to use it just at the moment, because, well, we haven't really taken any health or sanity issues. So this is best used when it's a fast play. So if we need to shore up a particular ally, then that's when we would use that. So there we go. That's the end of the upkeep phase. So we move into the second mythos phase. We've now got 2 doom on here, so this will flip next turn, and we are still in the study. We are staring down the barrel of actually not getting out of the study. We might be the first to not get out of the study before the agenda flips, which will be very, very slow. Anyway, so there we go. Let's see what the good old encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has, oh my goodness, grasping hands. So this is the equivalent to rotting remains, except this is damage. So, yes, 3 versus 1. So we're already at -2. I don't think we have any way. No, we have no way to avoid this. So we're probably looking at about 3 damage here, but that's okay because we've got an ally on the table, and we've got 8, so it's not too bad. We're much weaker in mental health than physical health. So let's see, test 3. So it's 3 versus 1. Chaos Bag says, "Oh my goodness." This is all over the place. Elder Sign, which means we get +2, which means 3 versus 3. We actually, oh my goodness, we actually survived the Grasping Hands. Leo stumbling around the study. The Grasping Hands came for him, and he just turned the other way and walked towards the cupboard. And so the Grasping Hands completely failed to get him. That's hilarious. We actually passed, and not only that, we get to look at the top 3 cards of our deck for an ally and draw it. Let's have a look. Nope. Nope. No. Oh, okay. So we avoided the treachery. There we go. So we'll put these back in. We'll shuffle it up. There we go. So that was a very surprising round. I was sure we were gonna get hit for some damage there, but it didn't happen. We got the Elder Sign. We've had Elder Signs and auto fails. It's been all over the place. There we go. So that was the Mythos phase, very action-packed. We're back into the investigation phase. Now, we have 2 assets. So we could play Venture, but we can't because we need 3 assets. So we can't use that free action this time. Maybe next time we can do that. So put 3 actions on Leo. There we go. And here we are still in the study. Now, we could bring out the flashlight and use the flashlight. I really don't want to use the flashlight though, because kind of need the flashlight for the... So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and see how we... And also I want to keep these resources so we can bring out more allies. So I really don't want to waste time on the flashlight and resource, but we'll just have to see how we go. So let's investigate once again. Come on, Leo. Like, you've been stumbling around this study for 2 turns. You've got to find a clue in a second. So let's do this again. So it's 2 versus 3, -1 or better. Chaos Bag says -3. I don't believe this. Try again. Chaos Bag says -1. Oh, at last. The crowd goes wild. Leo holds up the clue. Everybody goes wild. His 3rd turn, he's going to try again. Chaos Bag says that's a -1. So we succeed. Oh, at last. Oh, yay! Fantastic. So we have succeeded in getting all of the clues from the study. So yeah, that was quite a... Oh, I was worried we were going to be there again. So we could immediately move out of the study, but again, that's probably not a good idea, because next time we can immediately cash in the clues, and we can, if there's a rats or a ghoul minion, they immediately die. So there's no point as actually leaving the study at this stage. But that was a much more successful round. We managed to we failed the first time, but then we spent the next 2 successfully investigating the study. Right, it's turn 3, so he's not going to have left the study until turn 4. Can you believe it? Oh boy. Okay, so we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of, so we move into the upkeep phase. That's a great card to get for a couple of reasons. We can use it in the cellar if we need to, but also it can be used to parley someone like Leader Chandler, because actually, even though we probably... I hadn't thought about this before, but of course, even though we don't need Leader Chandler is an ally. She is unique, which means you can't add her with Mitch Brown. However, she could be very handy to have because she's another ally. The only problem would be that if you brought Leader Chandler on board, you would then have to lose Mitch Brown, which means then you lose your 2 ally slots. So the only problem is that if we've got 3 allies out on the table and we get Leader Chandler on board, we would then lose Mitch Brown, and that means we'd lose a bunch of allies. So it would be very tricky. So it makes it a little bit more situational to see whether it's worthwhile, but having Leader Chandler would be handy in an ally deck like Leo's. So there we go. So that's the upkeep phase. Brilliant. We've now got lots of resources. So next time we can bring out the Venturer onto the table. So that's nice. So let's move forward into into the mythos phase, and indeed there's the 3 doom. So we flip this. Boing. Let's see what it says. Your house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed, and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It's almost as if you've been transported somewhere else entirely. Although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. Oh, that's where my 12-year-old single malt scotch went. Ah, there are my scotch glasses. Oh, I wondered where those shot glasses went. Ah, yes. There we go. So the lead investigator must decide either each investigator discards 1 card at random or takes 2 horror. Well, I don't really want to lose these cards, so I think the 2 horror is the way to go, because we'll be able to soak that up. So we'll give, we'll give Mitch a horror, the horror, and we'll give ourselves a horror. There we go. So we'll take the 2 horror. So here we are at Agenda 2A, Rise of the Ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving way, and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find a way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do. Okay, there we go. So we've flipped the agenda to Agenda 2A. And we are still in the study, but we mustn't forget we still have to draw an encounter card as well. And the encounter card, what's it got? The encounter card is Ancient Evils. Yes, Ancient Evils. Place a doom on the current agenda. There we go. So that's just going to speed things up even more. Fantastic. So not only have we been slow in the study, but now we've the agenda deck is racing ahead. There we go. So yes, so that was an action-packed mythos phase. So let's move into our investigation phase. 3 actions on Leo, and indeed, before we start, we're going to use our special ability to play an asset onto the table, and so we'll bring out the Venturer. So that's 3, 1. Ooh. Hello, 2, 3. There we go. So the Venturer is now on the table as well. So we've got 2 asset, and he gets 3 supplies. And indeed, you can spend a supply, exhaust a Venturer, and place a supply or ammo on an asset controlled by an investigator. So that's very nice. So you could put a supply onto a flashlight. You could put it onto a gun, and you could put ammo. So that's a very nice way of keeping things going. So if we get out the 45, for example, we could essentially gives us 3 extra ammo in that case. Flashlight is a similar kind of thing. So that's very nice. Okie dokie, so that's great. And we've still got 3 turns, so we're going to throw in the clues as well, which is also a free fast action, and we can flip this trapped. So here we go. You notice that the edges of your newly purchased rug are tattered and mud-stained. Finding this odd, you shift the furniture aside and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see a door leading out of your study. You slowly turn the knob, and the door swings open, revealing your hallway below. You jump through the doorway, clumsily landing on your feet and hands in the soft dirt. The door to the study slams shut above you. The smell of burning wood fills the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rot and decay. So put the hallway, cellar, and attic and parlor in. Discard any enemies from the study. So we move here, boing, into the hallway, flip the hallway. Study disappears. Bye-bye, study. And yeah, so we can delete that now. It's gone. And we're into the barrier. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlor. As you move towards it, as you sort of, you know, hulkily move towards it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt incinerates. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or attic that can help. ... So we need 3 clues and be in the hallway at the end of the turn to trigger the Ghoul Priest. But we're a long way away from that at the moment. So here we are in the hallway. And so I think the first thing that we do is we move up to the attic. La-di-da-di-da-di. Oh, hello. La-di-da-di-da. Up to the attic. Flip the attic. Doing. After you enter the attic, take a horror. Well, we'll put a horror on the venturer. I'm not going to take the horror. And yeah, so 2 clues. And apparently we've seen it all, but apparently a swinging carcass of a malformed beast is just too much for Leo, and he just can't deal with it. Or maybe it's the paint tins, or looking rather like they're looking a bit messy. Maybe the person who's been painting recently has not exactly been very good at looking after their brushes and paint tins. Maybe he's upset about that. I don't know. But anyway, we're not happy in the attic. So there we go. Okie dokie. So what do we do now? What do we do now? So I think what we do now is we just go ahead and investigate. So we're a 1 versus a 3. So it's a -2 or better. So we might as well just take 2 turns and see if we can get these clues. Chaos Bag says, again? Auto fail again? My goodness. So there we go, Leo. Again, stumbling around the attic. Can't find what he's looking for. Let's go again. Investigate again. Chaos Bag says -1, so we succeed. There we go. Okay. So we managed to find one of the clues. So there we go. So we got out of the study eventually in turn 4. We got up to the attic and we found a clue, and we used our free action to bring out the venturer. So we get 2 additional ally slots. So we get another ally. We can put another ally out. So we'll then have 3 allies down on the table, which would be really great to get Leo DeLuca out on the table, but we'll just have to see how we go. Okay, that's the end of our turn. And we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies. It's been very light on enemies so far. We move into the upkeep phase and we get hard knocks. So, yeah, the problem with this card is, with all of these sorts of cards, the same with physical training, is we just don't have the resources to play it. So it's going to have to probably be used for other things. So not the best card to draw, unfortunately. So we'll move into the good old mythos phase. There are 2 Doom now on Rise of the Ghouls. Let's see what the good old encounter deck has for Leo this time. And the encounter deck brings, we were just saying there was no enemies. And here we go. We have a swarm of rats. A swarm of rats have appeared. Yes. Well, that's going to be pretty easy. I mean, it's really just a tax on our time, essentially. So there we go. That's the end of the mythos phase for turn 5. Let's move into our phase again. 3 actions on Leo. We don't have any allies to bring out, so we won't be using that. So here we go. Let's attack the rats. Now I could use this, but I think it's wasted here in the attic. It would be a much more useful card in the cellar, and if we don't need it in the cellar, then it's a useful card for Lita Chandler if we decide to bring her on board. I'm keeping all options open at the moment. So yeah, let's just fight these rats. So it's a 1 versus a 4. In fact, it's a 1 versus a 5 because we're using the survival knife. So it's almost assured that we will kill these rats. So Chaos Bag says 0. Yep, the rats are dead. So kill the rats. That's our first action. Second action is, of course, to investigate again. So 1 versus 3, -2 or better. Chaos Bag says -2. Yep. 3 versus 1. Yep, we get it. And that's our first victory. Crowd goes wild as we achieve our first victory point. Leo waves at the crowd. He's very happy. Now what do? We can't bring out the flashlight because we can't do that at the moment. I'm inclined to stay, or should we move? Look, I was going to say I'm inclined to stay in case the flesh eater appears, but the likelihood of that is low. So I think we're better off using our next action to move back to the hallway. And so we're ready to move into the cellar. Next, go. So there we go. So we got rid of the rats, we investigated, and then we moved out of the attic, and we have our first victory point. Happy days. So let's move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. Allies are getting bored. Where are these enemies? Oh, anyway. And upkeep phase, we get the backpack. Yeah, the backpack. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the backpack. I mean, search the top 6 cards for an item or supply card, and then you can play them. I mean, it would be good to get something like the machete or something like that. I'm assuming that's an item. Yes. So actually, it's a good way of getting something like that, because at the moment we don't have those things. So and we, that body slot is not going to get used up anytime soon. So yeah, not too bad. Okay, so that's the upkeep phase. Let's move into the mythos phase. There's now 3 doom on Rise of the Ghouls, so things are moving reasonably fast. Let's see what the good old encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has, more rats. Okay. More rats. Rats. I mean, rats are just rats, No big deal. Okay. So we'll move forward into the investigation phase. 3 more actions on Leo. We've got no allies to bring onto the table, so nothing there. So we've got to really get ourselves ready to find these clues in the cellar. Yes, so yep. First thing we're going to do is just fight these rats. So it's a 1 versus with our survival knife. So it's a 1 versus a 5. So first action, fight the rats. 1 versus 5. Chaos Bag says -1. So we succeed. Rats are dead. Second action is to move into the cellar. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Okay, 2 clues in the cellar, and as we shamble down the stairs into the cellar, Mitch Brown trips the back of our foot and we go tumbling down the stairs. Ouch! Thanks, Mitch. Therefore, Mitch can take the damage. Good on you. Thanks a lot. So there we go. So we're in the cellar, 4 shrouds. So the next thing we're going to do is for our third action, we're going to spend 2. Yeah, and we're going to bring out the old flashlight. So it's got to be careful about our slots here. We've got both hand slots full. 3 resources. Yep. And we've got 1 more ally slot that we can have. So there we go. It'd be nice to get another ally onto the table, and I think bringing out the backpack would be a good thing as well, so we can get some. Really, is resources are really that indebted was a bit of a pain at the beginning, but anyway. So we defeated the rats. We got down to the cellar, took the damage. Well, Mitch took the damage because he tripped Leo, and then we brought out the flashlight ready to investigate the cellar. So that's the end of our turn. I think we can say goodbye to the idea that we're going to do this quickly. So hopefully we'll bring out the icy ghoul or the flesh eater, which would be really helpful. enemy phase, there are no enemies to speak of, so we move into the upkeep phase and we get physical training. Again, totally useless apart from the pip. So we've now got these 2 cards here, which we just, we can use for the pips, which is good, but not very helpful other than that. Okay, so that's the upkeep phase. So we move into the, so we're now up to 4 doom on Rise of the Ghouls. And let's see what the encounter deck has for us. The encounter deck has, yes, dissonant voices, still lives. So dissonant voices, we just can't play assets. Well, that's fine because we've already got the flashlight on the table, so we're not looking to play any assets or events anyway. So we can just go ahead and just do that. So no biggie. We wouldn't be able to play that, but we can't play any of these. Yeah, that's fine. No big deal. Okay. So we move into the investigation phase. We can't use our special ability even if we could, but we don't have any more allies. So we've got our 3 actions here in the cellar. So the obvious thing to do here is to start investigating. Let's just go ahead and do that. We've got our flashlight here. So the first action will be to spend a resource, reduce the shroud by 2, so that makes it a 2. We are a 3, so it's a -1 or better. Chaos Bag says, what's that, -2? Yeah, so that's a fail. Really not been good with the old clue finding here. So we'll do it again. So we'll use the flashlight again. Chaos Bag says -1. I think that's, yes, that's a success because that's 2. And we're a 3, so we find one of the clues in the cellar. Fantastic. Yep. And for our final action, we'll do it again. So we will exhaust all of our resources on the flashlight. And -1 or better again. Chaos Bag has +1, so we succeed. Fantastic. That was actually not too bad. So we had better. We did better in the cellar with the flashlight than we did in the study, basically. So we got all those clues. We get the victory point. Crag goes wild. Leo's a bit happier. He's waving. Is there a slight smile on his face? Not sure, but anyway. So there we go. That's the end of our turn. At the end of the round, okay. So I'll keep it for a little bit longer. So we move into the enema phase. There are no enemas to speak of. And so we move into the upkeep phase and we get the 45 automatic, which is great, but it requires 4 and we don't have 4 at the moment. So, yeah, we're getting a bit heavy on the old cards here. And we don't have a lot of resources. So we can get rid of this dissonant voices. That's gone. And we can now move into the mythos phase. Here we go. So this is progressing very fast. This is up to 5 doom. And the encounter deck gives us a lovely frozen in fear. Well, you know, again, it's not the end of the world, but yeah, it only allows the first time you perform one of the following actions it costs, so it's just to move, fight, or evade. So the question is, do we just stay in the cellar and do other things and see if we can get rid of it, which might be worthwhile. Yes. Okay. Yes. So we move into the investigation phase. We get 3 actions. So we could move out of the cellar, but, you know, the icy ghoul might turn up, which would be actually quite handy. So probably no reason to leave the cellar just at the moment, because it would be unfortunate to leave the cellar and have to come back. So probably what's probably a better thing to do is look to, because as long as we're not moving, fighting, or evading, we've got 3 actions. So what can we do with our 3 actions that would make the most sense? So it would be good to get the 45 automatic onto the table, to be honest. That would be the thing. We don't need the flashlight anymore, because the 45 automatic would be very, very handy against the Ghoul Priest. So what I'll probably do is, yeah, I mean, the other thing would be to bring out the backpack and look at the top 6 cards of your deck for item or supply cards and put them on the backpack. So that would be the other thing to do, would be to use up the resources to do that, which would give us more things to choose from. But then we're then no resources, and then we've got to wait 4 turns essentially, or we've got to, you know. So I'm probably more inclined to do it the other way, which is to get the automatic out onto the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 actions to give me 4 resources. And then for my 3rd action, I'm going to spend the 4. Whoops. 1, 2, 3. I know I didn't need to do that, but just to make things really clear. Bring out the 45 automatic. Well, we can't have 3 hand slots, so the flashlight goes. And we've got the 45 automatic with 4 ammo. The nice thing is we can immediately exhaust the Venturer, spend a supply, and put that on the I'm going to give us 5, I think that's right. Exhaust Venturer, place 1 supply or ammo on an asset controlled by an investigator, which is me. So there you go. So we actually I've actually now got 5 here. So very nice. So that's a really, really nice thing to have. So I feel like we're much more set up now. And the nice thing is, if for example the Icy Ghoul does turn up in the cellar, we can shoot it, and we can still then transfer more bullets. So it's not like we're using it up excessively in that way. So nice outcome. There we go. So that's the end of our turn. So in that turn we really just stayed put. Oh, sorry, before we finished, test 3, we'll wear a 4, so 3 versus 4. I'm going to use this physical training, so that's 3 versus 5. I don't want to commit any of these others. So 3 versus 5. Let's see how we go. Chaos Bag says -2. Yeah, that was a good call. So there we go. Frozen in Fear gone. So there we go. That's the end of our turn. So very nice. So in that turn we didn't move. What we did was we took 2 resources so that we had 4. We then brought out the 45 automatic. We immediately used a fast action to put a sort of ammo on that, so it's now 5. And then we got rid of Frozen in Fear. So lots of good stuff happened in that turn. Okay, let's move forward to the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. So we move directly into the upkeep phase, and look who's arrived, Leo DeLuca. Fantastic. Too little, too late, mate. And also, we'll need 5 resources. So unless we get emergency cash, we won't be bringing Leo DeLuca out anytime soon. And it would be fantastic to have him on the table to get an additional action. But we're going to be waiting a while. I mean, we could spend some time. I suppose we could take 3 turns to put 3 action. In fact, if we did that, we would be able to get him out the turn after that, but it's a lot of time to wait. So but you know, we're not going to do this fast, so maybe waiting is a good idea, because you know, the longer we wait, the more likely that the Icy Ghoul or the Flesh Eater will come out, and we can kill them, and then we can get extra victory points, because we're going to need those if we're going to get ahead of the game here. So there we go. That's the end of the upkeep phase. So we move into the mythos phase. 6, so we're 1 off Rise of the Ghouls. So actually when that triggers, that might actually trigger one of those ghouls if we're lucky. There's only 2 of them in the deck though, so we're more likely to get a ghoul minion or the Ravenous Ghoul. But anyway, you never know. We might be lucky. But anyway, let's see what the encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has, speaking of which, a ghoul minion. Hello! So we got a ghoul minion onto the table. Yes. It'll keep us occupied. So there we go. So we move into the investigation phase, 3 actions on Leo, and here we are with the Ghoul Minion. So, the Ghoul Minion. So, yeah, we could shoot the Ghoul Minion, I suppose, which would be efficient. But then, you know, do we want to waste our bullets? Or we can take 2 turns, and we can dispatch the Ghoul Minion that way. What's the better thing to do? We're not in a massive hurry, to be honest. Like, there's no point as racing, because what are we going to, even if we defeat the Ghoul Minion, we don't want to, I mean, we could trigger the Ghoul Priest sooner, but it's turn 9, and it actually might be worthwhile holding out for another victory point. See, that's the thing about the Investigator games. It's kind of like, do you do it fast? Well, we've already in turn 9, so turn 9, we could get the Ghoul Priest in turn 10. So we could finish it probably by turn 11. So we could do it fast. Or alternatively, which wouldn't put us anywhere near the top of the table, because we've only got, then we'll only have 4 victory points. Or we can see whether we can get 5 victory points, and that gives us a much better outcome, because then we will be top of the table. So I think I can see Leo's working through this. Is it better to hold out longer and see if we can get more victory points, or is it better just to, you know, go ahead and bring the Ghoul Priest on board? Well, at the moment, I think it's probably better to try and see if we can get extra victory points, I would have thought. Because, yeah, otherwise we're just going to end up sort of in the middle of the table. So let's just go ahead and take 2 turns to fight this Ghoul Minion. So survival knife, we get +1 for the attack, which gives us a 5 versus a 2, so it's a -3 or better. Chaos bags is -1. Damage. And we'll go ahead and do that again. So we fight again with survival knife, -2 or better. Chaos bag says -2. That's right, isn't it? 5 versus 2. Yep. So the Ghoul Minion dies. Dead. So we have a 3rd turn. So I think what we'll do is, I think we'll get another resource, because that's probably a good idea. Get another resource. So that's our 3 turns, and hopefully, with any luck, we might get an Icy Ghoul or even a Flesh Eater, and that means we can get an extra victory point. So that's the end of our turn. Yep. Enemy phase, no enemies to speak of. We get the machete, well, which is a much better version than the survival knife. So it might be worthwhile bringing that out. So there we go. We've got 8 cards, so we better play some cards next go. We've got a bit of resources now. We're building them up slowly. So let's move into the mythos phase. There we go. There's the 7 Doom. So that triggers the Agenda 2A. So let's flip that and let's read it. A feral beast roughly humanoid with canine cast and hooves for feet tears through the ground in front of you. Below the floor you can see vast tunnels beneath your house. Fiendish howling echoes from deep within the underground caverns. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. Discard cards from the top until a ghoul enemy is discarded, and we draw that enemy. So let's shuffle these into the encounter deck. Yes. Let's shuffle up the encounter deck. We've shuffled it. Let's then draw and see what we get. No. No. Yes! The Flesh Eater! Yes! The cry goes wild! And the Flesh Eater is dragged kicking and screaming into the attic. Oh no, do I really have to be here? I'm going to get killed. So there we go. The Flesh Eater has arrived again. The Icy Ghoul has been conspicuous in his/her its absence in this game. So there we go. The gamble paid off. We now have the opportunity the very real opportunity to actually get an extra victory point. So that is a good outcome, and in fact, we could actually end up with the icy ghoul as well. So who knows? So let's what's going on here? Why is there 6 doom on there? Oh, that's very strange. Doesn't matter. Okay. So the next one is they're getting out. You hear a crazed howl outside, and suddenly all the creatures turn their attention to that sound. They rush to escape the house, breaking down doors and clawing at everything in their way. At the end of the enemy phase, each unengaged ghoul enemy moves 1 location to the parlor. At the end of the round, place 1 doom on this agenda for each ghoul enemy in the hallway or parlor, and we have 10 rounds. There we go. Very nice. So that's before we forward it, I nearly did it. We've got to check the encounter deck, and the encounter deck has now all the ghouls are coming. So there we go. Oh dear, ghoul minion. Oh boy, never mind. Yes. All right. Oh well. So it's now our turn. Investigation phase. 3 actions. So I do feel a bit more like we should. Yeah. So the only problem is if we fight the ghoul minion and then we move to the hallway, the flesh eater will then get a free hit on us. Oh no, it won't, because it's the end of the enemy phase. So it's at the end, so it doesn't get a hit on us. So I think the thing here is to get rid of this ghoul minion. I think we shoot it, get rid of it. We bring out... Do we bring out the machete, or do we hold out for Leo DeLuca? Because we could hold out for Leo DeLuca. Or no, I think we get the machete on board, and we get to the hallway. I think that's what we do. Can worry about Leo DeLuca later. So yeah, let's shoot this ghoul minion. So we fight. We get +1 for this attack. So that's the first thing that we do. So that gives us an attack of 5 versus 2. Chaos Bag says auto. Okay. Calm Blue Ocean. Let's exhaust. The Venturer and put another one on here. Let's do it again. I'm going to fight again. Maybe we should have fight then exhaust the Adventurer in terms of timing, but yeah. So we shoot again. Chaos Bag says -3. 3, 4, 5. 4, 5. Yeah, it's dead. That's 2 actions. So there we go. Dead. So and then we've got 1 action left. So I think we pay 2. And we bring out the machete and lose the survival knife. There we go. There we go. So the only thing I would like, I think, now is I think having Leo DeLuca on board before the Ghoul Priest would be really good, because we get an extra turn to kill him. Yeah, and then I think we're pretty right, because we'll have lots to do, and we can use the machete on the yeah. So that was our 3rd go. Okay, the end of our turn. So then we move into the enemy phase. Now here it says at the end of the enemy phase, each unenguled moves 1 location towards the parlor. So the flesh eater very obligingly moves 1 location towards the parlor. Yep. And then in the upkeep phase, we get a flashlight. Oh, great, don't need the flashlight. In fact, this is really strongly looking like we could get Leader Chandler, because we've got 2, 3. Yeah, we've got 3 plus 3, which would give us 6 versus 4, I think it is. So it would give us a reasonable chance to get Leader Chandler on board. In fact, we'd probably throw in, if we were going to do that, we would throw in Leo DeLuca as well. To do that. So that's another alternative. The only thing is we'd have to evade the Ghoul Priest to do that, and we're not really an evader. So then we would have to take an attack of opportunity to move to parley. So it doesn't feel great, to be honest, even though it would be great to have Leader Chandler on board, unless we get that, we get our I think it's evasion. I think it's probably unlikely it's going to happen. Okay, that's the end of our upkeep phase. We move into that's the first doom on the mythos phase. Now, it also says at the end of the round, place 1 doom on this agenda for each ghoul enemy in the hallway. So we better put another doom here. So there's now 2 doom, but there's still 8 goes left. So it's not like it's finishing anytime soon. And the encounter deck has for us Rotting Remains. Okay, well, this is not too bad because we're a 4 versus 3 already. Do we want to pitch anything into this? I definitely don't want to pitch that into it. So the answer is no. Let's see what the Chaos Bag says. Chaos Bag says, Elder Sign. So we completely, Rotting Remains have no problem for us at all. Couldn't care less about the Rotting Remains. We do look at our 3 cards here. Do we have an ally? We do. So the ally goes in. This is the Guard Dog. In fact, the Guard Dog is fantastic because, yeah, deal 1 damage back to attacking enemy. In some ways, that's better than Leo DeLuca because Leo DeLuca is going to take forever. So that was a very nice draw. And shuffle this up. Fantastic. Wow. Nice outcome. Okay. Yeah. There we go. All right. So we move into the investigation phase. 3 actions on Leo. Now, it's the start of our phase, so we can actually spend 2. And we can bring out the Guard Dog. So there we go. There's our ally assets taken up now. Brilliant. That's fantastic. Yeah. So fantastic. So there we go. That was a free go. Got that out onto the table. So we're really cooking with gas now. And because of this card here, Trusted, we can actually use Trusted to actually boost the Guard Dog, which means it can do even more damage. So even if the Ghoul Priest retaliates, he's going to be toast. I think Ghoul Priest is looking very shaky at the moment. So first action, we're going to move out. We're going to move out of the cellar, into the hallway, and immediately engage the flesh. So the Flesh Eater immediately engages us. There we go. Hello. Nice. Is this a party? We are going to have a party in the hallway because I'm not nasty. Not really. Too bad. Too bad for the old Flesh Eater, because we are going to go ahead and we are going to machete this Flesh Eater to death. So here we go. We're going to fight. We get a +1 for this attack. So that gives us a 5 versus a 4. A 5 versus a 4. Do we want to throw anything into this attack? The problem is if we throw something into it, then the problem with that is then the danger is that we then don't have anything available for the Ghoul Priest. And we're going to need some extra fight, because at the moment we've got 2 fight pips. No, 3. So I'm going to just do, I think I'm just going to go 5 versus 4. Ooh. Feels a bit on the low side though, doesn't it? No, I am going to put something in, because I think -1 with a ghoul there really makes it low. So I've just made it a 4, 5, 6 versus 4. A 6 versus 4. Chaos Bag says -2. Thank goodness I did that. If there is a ghoul enemy at your location, take a damage. Well, there is a ghoul enemy, so we still take a damage. Let's put the damage on the Guard Dog. Do we want to put the damage on the Guard Dog? Because that's 1, 2, 3. No, we don't, because if we do that, then it's kind of a wasted thing. So we're actually better putting, let's just put, hold on. Let's put the damage onto the Wayfarer at the moment, the Venturer, sorry. Mitch can't take any more. Don't want to do that because if it was a 3 enemy, then no problem. But we don't want to be wasting it on a 4 enemy because there's no need to. So that was 2 damage. Ah! So that was a machete to the head. Successful, but we still took a damage. So there we go. That was, yeah. So we go again. So I think we do the same thing again. So I'll bring out Hard Knocks this time. So that's again a machete to the head. So we're talking 6 versus 4. So -2 or better. Chaos Bag has +1, so that was a bit of a waste, but you never know. And the Flesh Eater dies. Into the victory display. Crowd goes wild. There we go. So we are now one of the few investigators who's actually got an extra victory point, but we still have to defeat the Ghoul Priest. So still a little bit of a way to go, but there we go. So that was a very successful round. We moved into the hallway. So we brought out the guard dog for a free action. Then we moved into the hallway and we macheted the Flesh Eater to death. So we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of, so we move into the upkeep phase. Ah, dynamite. That's a good card to get. Yeah. So the only problem with dynamite is we can't use it because we don't have the resources. So, but yeah, maybe we will. So there we go. There's the dynamite, which is evading the Ghoul Priest, moving to the parlor, and then dynamiting the hallway is always a ton of fun if you can pull it off. So we move into the mythos phase. There are now 3 dooms, so we've got some time, and it's time to see what's going to come up in the encounter deck, and what comes up are rats. Yeah, right. Okay, rats. All right, it would have been, you know, the icy ghoul would have been absolutely perfect, but you know, chances are it's not going to happen. So investigation phase, we put 3 actions onto Leo. First action is we'll just attack the swarm of rats with our machete. So that's a 1 versus a 5. Chaos Bag says -1. Rats completely dead. So now we've got 2 actions. So what do we do with our 2 actions? So the question is, do we bring forth the Ghoul Priest this time? Yeah. Do we do that, or do we wait a little bit longer? I think more than likely we can easily kill the Ghoul Priest, even without the dynamite. But what would be nice would be to have some more fight pips, some more things to fight with. So the question is, and even if we drew our weakness, we can throw out Leo DeLuca, so that's not even a big problem. So what I'm inclined to do, because I think we're set up pretty right. We've got 4 ammo. We've got potentially 5 ammo. We've got the guard dog out, so even if the Ghoul Priest retaliates, we've got 1 resource which allows us to play Trusted, so that we can soak up even more damage and sanity if we need to. So I feel like we're pretty right. It would just be good to have some more fight pips. So I am going to take a turn to draw a card, and we get a fight pip. Yeah, it's the Derringer. I don't want the Derringer on the table, but we get a fight pip, which is fantastic. I'll draw another card. Hello? I'll get another card, and we get the Switchblade, which strangely enough is not a fight pip. So we got an extra fight pip. So we got a couple of fight pips. Yeah. So there we go. That's the end of our turn. So the question is, do we wait another turn, or do we take on the Ghoul Priest this time? Because we're a 4, it's a 4. So yeah, so then we're talking about a 5 versus a 4, which we can make a 6, 7. We make it a 7 versus a 4, but that's still not, that's still not great odds. So I'm actually, and I know that if he retaliates, I mean, yeah, so it feels okay, but it feels like if we've gone this long, we might as well wait a little bit longer before we fight with the Ghoul Priest. That's my feeling, because it would be good to have at least another card or 2 with fight pips on them. So let's wait, and let's move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of, so we move into the upkeep phase, and here we go. That's a great card to get. First aid. So let's get rid of some things here. Well, the flashlight can go, and the evidence can go. There we go. So we've got our 8 cards. We've got some evasion, but no, it's not enough. Okay, so there we go. We've got first aid, which would be nice to also put on the table, because then that would allow us to, although once we're in, once we've got the Ghoul Priest underway, it's not going to be helpful because it takes an action. So not so helpful from that perspective. All right, so we move forward into the mythos phase. There are 4 on here. We've still got plenty of time. Let's see what the chaos bag says. The encounter deck says. The encounter deck has dissonant voices, so that just means we can't play anything this time. That goes away at the end of the turn, so it's only an issue if we wanted to bring out first aid or something, and I'm not feeling like we need to. It might be nice, actually. I'm just thinking, I'm actually thinking that we just get resources, because then we can use the dynamite blast, and then so worst case scenario, we just blast everybody and everything. We just kill all our allies. In fact, that might be the way to go, is we do 3, we do some damage to the Ghoul Priest, or indeed, yeah, and then we just like dynamite blast everybody. I think that might be quite the way to go. I think I might. Yeah, I think we're going to do that. All right, so well, we can't play anything out this time, so let's go into the investigation phase. So we are going to bring the Ghoul Priest out this time. So with my 3 actions, I'm literally just going to add 3 resources. Oh my goodness, this is going to be great. So there we go. We've got our 3 resources. We've got 5 resources, so we can literally dynamite blast everything. How much damage does everything take? Deal 3 damage to each enemy and to each investigator at the location. Oh, that's going to be fantastic. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but it's just so Leo Anderson to actually just blast everybody to Kingdom Come. Oh boy. Anyway, yeah. So that's the end of that phase. We move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of at all. Again, so we move into the upkeep phase. Did we just draw? We drew another those, so we've got to get rid of something else. Well, let's get rid of the backpack. Select the backpack. Okay, the backpack is gone. All right, so we've got our 8 cards. It's the upkeep phase, so we are going to spend the 3. I thought Leo had some damage on him. Removes 1 horror marker. How did that happen? Oh dear. So there's a horror on Leo. Okay. Not sure how that happened. Anyway, I noticed it. So there we go. So 1 clue, 1 clue, another clue. So there we go. So that disappears at the end of the round. We spend the 3 clues and we flip the act deck. Yep. And act deck says, using the barrel from the attic, you carry ice and snow from the cellar and hurl it at the barrier. The barrier sparks and shudders and consumes the ice, then hisses and fades out of existence. The barrier blocking the passage into the parlour has vanished. Reveal the parlour. Put set aside Leader Chandler into play. There she is. And also put the Ghoul Priest in the hallway. Hello, I'm here. There we go. Ghoul Priest has arrived. Is that dynamite you've got there? Oh, crap. Anyway, so, yeah, what have you done? A woman with a torch stands in your parlour, a glimmer of hatred in her eyes. What have you done to my barrier? She screams furious. Before you can answer, a ghastly wail sounds behind you, and a creature wearing robes and a deer skull mask tears through the wall, advancing towards you. If the Ghoul Priest is defeated, advance. Oakley dokily. So there we go. That's the Ghoul Priest. So now, before we move any further, let's just, the parlour gets flipped. Yeah, so we could try and move it, like we could move into the parlour, and we could, we could take an attack of opportunity and we could get Leader Chandler on board. That's not going to happen. And we are now here with the Ghoul Priest. But before we can start fighting the Ghoul Priest, of course, we have to hit the encounter deck. And the encounter deck gives us... Oh, you're kidding. Oh, no! Not another Dissonant Voices. Did we just get rid of it? Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. So we can't play any assets or events. So we cannot play the Dynamite. Oh, well, that didn't quite go to plan. Oh my goodness. Leo suddenly starts shaking his head and moving around, drops the dynamite. Ghoul Priest has a gleam in his eye. His best laid plans are not going to work out. Mitch Brown's like, what are you doing? The dynamite. Oh, the dynamite. Guard dog's like, oh. Okay. So we have 3 actions. Well, we know what we're going to do with these 3 actions. First action is we are going to shoot the Ghoul Priest. That's the first thing that we're going to do. And we're going to bring out Vicious Blow, and indeed we're going to bring out the Derringer. Yep, so our 2 fight cards. So there we go. So that gives us a 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 versus 4. -3 or better. Chaos Bag says Skull, which is a -1. So that's successful. So there we go. So we do, in terms of damage... what am I doing? I'm not putting them there. So in terms of damage, we do 3 points of damage. 1, 2, to the Ghoul Priest. Ah! 3 on the Ghoul Priest. So that was our first action. So I guess the next action will be to do that again. Now, we can't use the dynamite. We can't play. So we can't use that. But if we fail at the attack and we get an attack of opportunity, that's okay because we've got the good old guard dog here. So we can put that attack right back onto the Ghoul Priest. So I'm naturally not concerned at all if we if we find ourselves in that situation. So let's go shoot the Ghoul Priest again, but this time we've got no cards to commit from our deck. We're all willpower cards and things, so it's a straight up 4 versus a sorry about that. It's a straight up 4 versus a 5. So it's a -1 or better. Okay, let's see what the Chaos Bag says. Chaos Bag says -1. That's it. That's 2 points of damage. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ghoul Priest goes down. Ah! There we go, ladies and gentlemen. The Ghoul Priest goes down in 2 goes. Leo DeLuca is jumping up and down. The crowd is cheering. It was a slow slow game all in all, but you know, Leo isn't the most agile of investigators. Things started very slow in the study, but once we got going and we got all our allies onto the table, things went much better. We held out for another victory point, and thankfully that came along with the Flesh Eater. We could have tried to wait a little bit longer and see whether the Icy Ghoul had turned up, but there's no guarantees that, you know, we could have been waiting and waiting and waiting. So we managed to get 2, 3, 4, 5 victory points, which puts us at the top of the table, probably third on the table, I would say, because we didn't do this quite as fast as other investigators have with that many victory points. But it certainly puts us at the top of the table, which is a great outcome for Leo. Like I said, just a pity that we weren't able to get the Icy Ghoul as well, because that would have definitely put us at the top of the table. Nobody has gotten 8 experience points so far in the Investigator Games. You have to be very lucky to draw both, and that hasn't happened. So there we go. That's Leo Anderson in the Gathering. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe. I do really appreciate that. It does mean a lot to me. Next time, I think we'll be looking at the Investigator Games with the Forgotten Age Seeker, Ursula Downs, and we'll see how Ursula goes in the Investigator Games. The league table for all the investigators will be at the end of this video, and you can see where Leo sits on the overall table. So thank you very much once again, and I will see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.